Is that Liz? Recording in
I
progress.
guess.
No show notes.
Show notes. What are show notes?
Planning ahead.
What?
Oh, I need to move the camera ever so slightly. Hi. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Adventures of Liz and Rebecca, because we have no Dear Becky and Lizzie questions.
It could still be a Dear Us, but
It's a Dear Us by us, because we're going to make it up as we go along.
It's a dear us, by us, for us, and for you. So yeah. Anyway. Hi. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in kind of muggy and hot and probably going to rain at some point today, Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
That was part of the Holderness family. So I saw a video by the Holderness family about summer in the South, and they mentioned North Carolina. Not here, but it's true for a lot of the South, because part of the thing with her neighbor was that they were gonna go to Disney next month, and she was like, "Oh, bless your heart, going to Disney in August." And she said, "Oh, thank you, you blessed my heart." And she's like, "No." And saying, well, it rains like every day, which it does here too, but down in Florida as well, it's like every day 3 o'clock, like clockwork. Here it tends to be like 2
between 2 and 7.
Yeah,
depending on how much humidity gets into the air, and then squeezes itself back out.
And how if it's actually part of a system that's moving, how it hits the mountains can totally change what we get where. I think we've mentioned before, downtown Brevard versus where Liz is versus where I am could totally all be having different weather. So yeah, as Liz just mentioned, nobody wrote us any questions this week, so we don't feel loved. And no, some weeks, like last week we talked about winders, we talked about so many things, there were lots of questions or just lots to talk about. So that means that we get to vamp, and sometimes that's highly entertaining and sometimes not so much so. So, I'm trying to think. My cat has been my cat lately, so he's either had me kitty locked, or I don't think I told the story here of him trying to attack a deer through the sliding glass door. He kind of did one of these jumping up things, and I'm like, the deer is not impressed. He's not even moving. When people go by my house, because I'm on this little cul-de-sac one-way street, and they're always going this way, and they all slow down as they go by my house. I've got a fair number of VRBOs on the cul-de-sac, and they all slow down, and I'm like, what? It's not like they're looking at my house. My house is nothing special to look at. But last night, one slowed down, and the back window rolled down. They were between my house and my neighbors, and this little hand started waving, and I'm like, are they waving at me? Because I don't think they can see me in here. If they can, this is creepy. There was a deer in the next yard. And so there's a little kid being like, "Hi, dear, hello. This is life in the woods,
Yeah.
You have something on your
yarn ends.
I was like, it's just ends, it's fine. It actually might be ends from me weaving. I cut a bunch of ends.
Yeah, because I gathered everything up that was on the table, and I was like, oh look, they match my ends. So
they do. And they just nestled right here.
I don't know how much people saw.
I wasn't sure if you did that. I know, but I was like, I don't know if you did that on purpose or not.
No.
Oh man. So yes, wildlife. Speaking of wildlife, since I forgot to bring home my Pom Pom magazine last night. I was like, I'll do my top for morning meditation. And I left this here. So I went, I guess I'm not doing. I mean, I could have looked it up online, but my code for my online copy was here. I have your code, but I didn't want to use it.
I already used it.
So I don't know if I can use it. I haven't looked to see if they're different. I would think they are. Yeah. That means there's like so many codes out there for free downloads. That is a thing, if you didn't know, with Pom Pom. When you buy the magazine, you also get a code for an online copy. So you can get a digital copy of everything that's in it, which is pretty cool, I think.
So the digital copies you get the entire magazine. and you can either get single page views or the entire magazine views. So it's not like
See, I haven't really done it
you
yet.
can just pull out whatever you're looking for.
Mhm.
It's like it's all there. So when I took my digital copy and wanted to print out just one page, I had to scroll through
You had to
87
find-
pages to find the right page. Like,
Oh my.
yeah.
You can buy, once the magazine's released, you can get individual patterns from it on Ravelry.
Yep.
But it is more cost effective if you want all the patterns to just get the magazine. So no, but since I didn't have that, and the only other thing I worked on last night was my Diamonds cardigan, which, while stunning and wonderful, I did the day before. And I only maybe got that much more done on it. So, you know. So I pulled out an old favorite I haven't worked on probably since the beginning of this year,
Yes.
or, you know, sometime.
I think you took it flying and then you worked on a little bit.
Maybe a little after Christmas, but not
Yeah.
much. This is my Rebel Squirrel cowl, and it's knit in the round. And when I'm done with it, I'm going to Kitchener it to the other end. So these, I can release these stitches and sew it together. So it looks like it just goes continuously. And I was looking at the instructions. I think she wants it to, let me see. Who, I forget her name at the moment. I'm so sorry. Karin Fernandes. Karin spelled with an I. Karin Fernandes. And Fernandes at the end has an S. And I'll try to put the link in the description for this video if I remember. But it's meant to have to be like, look kind of seamless if you Kitchener it. And I think she wants you to actually twist it once before sewing it together. I'm going to see what I feel like doing. I might just want it to be a tube that doesn't have like a twist like this once in it. And there's two sizes. There's one where the repeats of these squirrels, and please note, we live in Brevard, where the one thing we're kind of known, I mean, I think Brevard is known for a few things, but the one thing you'll see a lot of when you come here are things talking about or named after white squirrels, because white squirrels are a thing here. We even have our white squirrel shuffle, which is the yarn that we had Yarn Baby dye inspired by white squirrels. It's kind of our thing. They're in a few places in the US, but so not just here, as Liz will tell you if you come into the shop, but it's our like claim to fame kind of.
Yeah.
So there are two sizes for this. You can make it with either, let's see, about maybe 15 repeats of these squirrels or 20. And at this point, since I may never finish it, I might want to do the small one. I'm going to see how far, like, this is
You're
still
about halfway.
About halfway. I'm about halfway if I do the 20, because I think this is repeat number 9, if I counted this morning. So if I did the super small size, it would be really snug. But I'm doing it with Cascade Heritage Silk with a nice like Calia green or something like that, and white. So it's got merino and silk instead of the merino and nylon. It's fingering weight. I'm kind of tempted to do this as a class maybe, because it's the kind of thing we can get started on. And maybe, well, a lot of the classes now I'm doing is 2 sessions. And every time I go, well, this only needs 1 session. The second session could be sewing it together, but that also requires people to have finished it in 2 weeks. And I've been working on this one.
That's a lot.
For months because it's been in timeout. So what I sometimes do with my classes is there's a get started class, and then whenever you're ready, so whenever someone would be ready to Kitchener this, they would come back in when they're done. I don't like putting homework on people. Most of my 2 session classes are, we'll keep working wherever you find yourself. I might want you to get to a certain point, but if not, we'll just show you stuff if it's something you need to learn still. So you sound like you're about to say something. No? Yes?
You could, instead of do it like in September or whatever, you could do 2 starting classes instead of, back-to-back class where you do start and finish in the same month. You could just do 2 starters, 2 starters, and then come back in whenever you're.
Yeah, there's lots to plot because technically in September, no, August is our next knit along. and then September's a crochet along. And I was thinking I could do this as a class next month, but we're probably going to do a brioche class next month because our knit along in August is brioche. And I didn't necessarily want to do 2 knitting class. Like we don't do a whole bunch of advanced classes at this point because I want to give you dedicated time and not super exhaust myself. So
It's a thing.
so I'm trying to do like 1 knit and 1 crochet class a month, basically. And also 1 intro knit, 1 intro crochet series of sections a month. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do 2 knit ones in the same month. I mean, I could. I don't want to neglect our crocheters though. We shall see. I'm just expounding. Y'all get to hear how my brain works when we have no questions on this.
This is kind of like us just talking outside or inside or
Right.
whatever.
This is what we do every day. So this is called Rebel Squirrels though, because you see the little itty bitty squirrels. She tells you every once in a while, throw in one that goes a different direction or is upside down. Like this little guy, shout out to Mary Lou. She gave us these little chicken progress keepers. And when I stick in a new squirrel that's going to be a rebel, this is my heads up that I'm about to do one. So we've got like squirrel facing this way, squirrel facing this way. And the one right here is an upside down squirrel. I mean, they might all look kind of just like little blobs from a distance, but this is an upside down squirrel. And I've put like 2 or 3 other rebels in here and I don't even know where they are anymore. Oh, here's one. Okay. So these squirrels face this way and this guy right here faces the other way. So if you look, these guys are touching noses, whereas all the other squirrels, most of them are facing that way. So that's the rebel squirrel thing. And it comes with little charts. It's super cute. It's almost like this could be a, potentially could be a knit along later in the year.
That's what I was thinking. Cause everybody has squirrels or,
and you can pick your own colors.
Yeah. Like you went to a college where the black squirrel was a thing.
Yes.
So
Haverford.
You could, everybody, like, depending on what the squirrels look like in your area, every red
right?
squirrels, black squirrels, gray squirrels, white squirrels.
Hers were little, you can't see from there probably, but hers were little red squirrels. So, okay. The next knit along spot we have, I'm throwing so much at people, I know. But part of the reason I'm doing that is not because I expect y'all out there in the metaverse, whatever, to be doing every single one of these. I mean, we have a few, like shout out to Donna Georgie. We have some people who are engaging in almost every single one of them, and that's awesome. But some people don't like sweaters and some people don't like socks and some people might not like cowls. And so I'm trying to change it up enough that does mean that we'll have 2 months. If I do this one in October, we'll have 2 months that are both cowls. So I just have to think about that.
They're different cowls because
they're very
you're
different.
doing a triangle bandana type cowl
next
with
month.
the brioche.
Yeah.
And this one is like a warmer cowl because it's a tube instead of just a single flat. So it hides all the insides.
If anyone has thoughts, and here's all my floats. This is also a color work as opposed to brioche. Still 2 colors involved. If anyone has thoughts on that, you can make a comment or send us an email, that kind of thing. As we head into winter, we might put another sweater in, because when we did the Ranunculus, suddenly everyone wanted to do other sweaters that might be super similar or different, or it's like, we're trying to change it up, but at some point we're going to get repetitive. It's true. Or we're going to have variations on a theme, but I'm trying not to do them too close together. So let me know what you think about that. With this, honestly, what I like about this one is why I wanted to maybe do it as a class either sooner or later, or put it in the rotation, which means maybe putting it into the knit along rotation, is it is really super basic color work in a way. It's 2 colors. You're never stretching over a super long break for most of this. So if you wanted to practice color work, you could do a variation on a theme if you didn't want to do fingering weight yarn. You could make it thicker, but you have to figure out, is it just going to be super wide then, or are you going to cut down the repeats? Like you might have to do what we call some magic math on it, so that it comes out the size that you want. And if you don't want to engage in that, then you may have to engage in fingering weight, right?
And
But
we talked about that a little bit. You might have been either inside or doing your class. Yesterday during our sit and stitch outside. Shout out to Marion. She saw a color work skirt.
ooh,
Like it was
I
all
was not part of
fingering
this
weight.
conversation.
And it was a color work skirt. And she was like, yeah, it's fingering weight. And I'm like, yeah, it's teeny tiny needles. And she was like, you wouldn't do it. I was like, no, because like you have to do color work for like clothing. Well, you don't have to, but like a lot of people do color work for clothing with fingering weight yarn because it's lighter weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, I've done it with thicker stuff, but
yeah, but if you live
you get
somewhere,
layers.
it like doubles up the amount. So that will come out feeling more like DK thickness.
For parts of it.
For parts of
it. There's a few rows in between, but yeah, when you feel the part where there's 2 layers, it does come out a little thicker. So whatever you make is going to feel warmer in the end than just the fingering weight by itself. It's true. That's a very good point. But yeah, you don't have to use fingering weight. It's just, if you still follow the instructions as given, you can change the needle size, change the thickness of yarn, change the needle size. If you don't change anything else and you still have the same number of stitches, it's going to be a lot wider. And that could be okay. Or cut down on the number of repeats. I have stitch markers for every repeat for every squirrel. It's 10 stitches. So you could do fewer stitches. I'm doing it on a 16-inch circular. I'm just going to town. When you make it with a thicker yarn, you just cut down the number of repeats you have and you can adapt the pattern. This could be an excellent way to attempt adapting a pattern on your own. I mean, one thing I'll say about all these classes I keep talking about is they are in person, which I know we have people who watch this from all over the world and all over the country. And I did try some virtual lessons back when we couldn't keep the shop open full time. And I had time to be at home with my camera and flip it around so you could see what I was doing and mentor someone through Zoom. And that was fantastic. The challenge with the Zoom stuff is I can't help you. I have to try to talk you through how to do it. And sometimes that works okay. And sometimes that just, it's a meltdown. And it's nobody's fault. It's not like the person I'm with is the reason it's a meltdown. It's just challenging. And now that the shop is open full time, we have so many hats that we wear. I can't when the shop is open. I mean, I could, but it would be really challenging to do a Zoom lesson at the same time, like say outside.
But then there's traffic and there's
it's
life
noisy.
everywhere.
It's hard enough when doing in-person classes. I might have to hop up and help Liz because the shop gets busy. So I have to do those when the shop's not open, and those are 2 days, and those are 2 days that I'm usually trying to rest up for the next week of,
I was joking with one of our regulars who came in yesterday, and we got a package from UPS or somebody came by, and I was like, shipping, you're looking at her. Receiving, you're looking at her. Packing, fulfillment, you're looking at her. Like,
yep.
I think
So-
you even did a pack up for an online order because it came in while we were busy,
Yeah.
and you just happened
And you
to
were
see it.
engaged with someone, and I'm like, I'm at least gonna pull this, which again usually falls on Liz. There's lots of things that fall on both of us, and very rarely do we go into each other's territory because we've gotten used to our roles, and I don't want to mess with stuff that Liz has streamlined, and she doesn't want to mess with the computer and stuff like that. So, but this is reminding me I still need to work on that potential order for not
Yes.
in this country, which we really don't do very often. We engage once in a while on this if someone is willing to engage on all of the what ifs with us. There's a lot of risks involved, and we have not streamlined and made it workable to ship outside of the US easily. So I still need to potentially do that. And just know that if you're outside the US and you love watching us, thank you, yay. If you want to buy from us, there's lots of hoops, and we're not trying to make it difficult, but we have enough trouble keeping up with stuff that's happening here because you're looking at the whole workforce of our shop. So, and I usually like to say, like, if this was all we were doing and could make, a living off of it, fantastic. If the shop was all we were doing, if lessons were all we were doing, but we're doing all of it, which is hopefully why we're still here.
The reason pre-pandemic we weren't doing all of it because
it was hard enough.
No, we'll have to hire more people. And
then the pandemic hit and we said, oh, we're not hiring more people. And that's not because we don't like people or we don't feel like it would be beneficial to. We're again kind of keeping the germ pool as limited as possible.
Keeping the germ pool, and it's difficult for us to
train someone.
To train someone is like it takes more time to do that than it's just easier to go and grab it and throw it in
We'd
a
have to shut the
than-
shop down for a week or have some kind of probationary period where we're trying to train them and maybe not do anything else with the shop open. And I've lost touch with at least one person that would fit in here fantastically. So if we ever get back in touch with that person, we would love them to come work here. But that's just challenging. So, I mean, it's a pros and cons of say somebody got sick working here. If we had a larger workforce and they weren't in touch with each other, then someone else could keep the shop open. So like if one of us gets COVID, then we just shut the shop down because we're around each other all the time.
All the time.
So there's we'd both have to quarantine. So it's one of the reasons we still do masks when you come to shop with us. And thank you so much for people who are good about that. So you're making a lot of progress on that. Look at that. Got a little skirt. So many people like that, by the way.
I saw people comment on,
and they're gonna want to know how to make it, and I'm not gonna.
Everybody wants to know how to make it.
Ah,
yeah, it's crochet and knitting. Mix them, have fun,
experiment.
Yeah, this is just a grand experiment. There will be no pattern.
We had someone come in the shop and was admiring her ranunculus and said, I'm going to come back because she likes putting crochet edges on things. I'm going to come back so Liz can teach me how to do that. And I'm like, I did not mean this as an insult, but I said, Liz doesn't teach. She said, well, you can do it. And I said, I don't know how to do it.
I can tell you what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
That's not the same as teaching. No. People think it is. And I said, you can come back for advice, but it's not going to be a sit down lesson where she can show you what to do. Cause I don't even know if you remember completely what you did.
I don't ever remember like the patterns around the bottoms, like the cuffs. Like I know how I take it off and then I change it up every time.
Right.
And,
and that's the pro and con to improvising.
Fudge it under the armpits and life's fine.
And that's why I don't improvise. And it doesn't mean Liz can't. But that's why I don't improvise when I make samples for the shop.
Well, shout out.
I need to know how to tell people.
Shout out to Denise.
Yeah.
And Marion, both of whom have crocheted stuff.
On the edges of the ranunculus.
Edges of their ranunculus.
Yeah.
And I told them how I did it.
And they made up their own thing.
And they made up their own thing, which is exactly what I do. Like, this is how I do it. This is all I can tell you.
Just engage in the fun of it. Right.
If you need more than that, I can't help you.
For me, like when I make samples, if I change things, I remember the woman I got my training with, she would change things, but then you have to remember what you did so you can tell other people because they will want it to come out just like yours. I have learned this. And if I don't remember, I'm not good at keeping notes.
Well,
it would be great if I could.
I found
I can work on that, but it's not gonna work.
It's been this year. I've worked here 5 years. And all of a sudden people are like, I want it just like yours. And I'm like, no, you mean just like Rebecca's. And they're like, no. And I'm like,
she's a fixture now.
I changed needle sizes. And they're like, okay, what needle size did you use? And I'm like, and I crocheted. And okay, tell me how to do it. And I'm like, wait, no. Like,
it's like someone coming in and saying, I want to make this. Tell me how to make this and hold up something. I've done that once, but it was a challenge. And while I like challenges, too many of them, my brain will melt down. My brain will lose cohesion at some point. We had someone who came in who wanted to get help on hats. she's making it up as she goes, and she's hoping I can tell her how to do it the reverse direction. I said, we can find a pattern. And she kind of went, oh. I said, well, I can use the pattern as a way to instruct you what to do, and you can make it up from there. But for me, like, I don't have a wealth of information. I have a wealth of information in my head because of how many patterns I've engaged in. That doesn't necessarily mean I can make something up because I've done that. Maybe in years down the road, potentially. I consider myself a very good follower of patterns. And so I can explain in general what may happen in your pattern, but I'm not going to be able to make a series of YouTube videos that just tell you how to make a sweater without a pattern. I can give you guidelines.
There are people out there. We're not one of them. But people out there who can do a few patterns and their brains like know instantly how the math works. And they're like, okay, I don't need to go to a pattern anymore because I know how this works. My brain doesn't do that. My brain's like, wait, you want to do what?
If my brain did that, I don't know if that would benefit the shop, because like there's being able to do that, and then there's being able to teach someone else what that means or communicate that to someone else, and they don't always exist in the same person. And that's not necessarily a failure on that person. It's just everybody's got what they're good at. And I think what I'm good at is taking a pattern and conveying how to do it to other people. But I have to be careful with that, because if I do too much of that online on YouTube, it can be infringing on someone else's pattern. And I would never want to do that, because I respect so much the work that people put into writing patterns. I can't do that. So I'm not like all those ranunculus videos I made that people are really, really admiring. They're using with their pattern to help them understand the pattern. I would never want to take credit for the ranunculus as a finished piece of clothing, because Midori did so much awesome work on that. Like, that is her baby. I consider myself like, I don't have original patterns. I think I've written one or two, but they're mostly adaptations of other patterns. And I change enough, or like, again, I'm not trying to sell them or make money off of them. So from scratch, I really haven't written patterns because that's not my thing. But it's been really fantastic that I've been able to help others understand how to follow a pattern or make a pattern successfully. And often that's in one-on-one lessons. And that's why we charge for lessons, is because you're paying for the expertise and the support system. Get off my horse now. My soapbox. You know?
It's the math and the geometry and some people, like, it's intuitive.
It just clicks.
It just clicks. And
it's the same with teaching people. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, math is not my thing. And you're like, you're doing more and more math. It's like, because it's like going to a foreign country and learning the language. If you're dropped in the middle of a foreign country and you start learning the language,
sometimes you just have to survive.
You have to survive. And I work in a yarn shop, and it's all math, and it's all I can do.
And it's like teaching someone to knit or crochet. For some people, it just clicks. For other people, it takes a little more time. And it's how willing you are to be able to engage in that and give it more time. Because often the frustration levels come from, but this should make sense. And it will. Sometimes you got to kind of let go. It's kind of like falling and trying not to brace yourself, because then you're going to break your hands.
We've talked about this a lot. Like, there's a lot of newer knitters, like within the last 15 years, who have learned on YouTube, which is not bad. But
it works for some people.
If you get a written pattern because you're like, that's the only pattern out there that I can find of the thing that I want, and it's written, and I don't know how to read a pattern, there's shorthand you've got to learn. There's like all these extra little bits.
There's alphabet soup.
Yeah. And so, and then every pattern writer writes a little bit different.
And it's just like someone coming into the shop and saying, I wish all this weight of yarn were all the same thickness. They're not. I wish all patterns had consistency to them. There are some organizations that are trying for that, but not everyone adheres to what the organization is saying. So people have their own ways of doing things. And while as frustrating as that might be, it is hard to say, to put norms on things that everyone's going to follow.
Well, and we're all different individuals. So some of us
Our brains process things differently.
process different. That's why some people gravitate to certain designers, because they write patterns like they do patterns,
Mhm.
So
It makes sense to them.
it makes sense to them.
That's why having people that test patterns and there's a whole complexity to patterns and making things. And sometimes the best patterns are ones that lots of people have tested it before it's released, so they can say, this doesn't make sense. And the pattern writer can say, oh, it made sense to me. Let me think about how to reword that. Like, the more people are exposed to a pattern before it's released, the better chance you have of making it more understandable to a wider number of people. And if you get your patterns from like just Google searches and people's blog posts, and some of that exists on Ravelry too, but sometimes someone just throws a pattern up and it looks really cool, and it's really hard to understand what to do because your brain is different than the person who wrote the pattern. So we had to get packages ready. I mean, you've heard this all before, right? I came in late. We had packages to get ready. We started late. We didn't have questions, so we're like, it's okay. We might not even have things to talk about. Somehow it's only a few minutes until the shop needs to open.
We never do this.
We can
Never.
vamp, whether it's entertaining or not. Different people will have different answers to that question. But so if you have a question you want us to address, if this has sparked any interest and you want further discussion, or you want us to talk about something else next week, then you can write us at Dear Becky and Lizzie, Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. I almost thought I was starting to rattle off the phone number, but I'm not.
Or email
Numbers are hard.
Liz at sundragonartandfiber.com.
Okay, we are going to go open the shop because I have the second session of intro knitting with a younger knitter today, which is fantastic. We had an older lady come up, because we do them outside, and be like, oh, this is lovely, you're going to love it. And I'm like, you are making my new young knitter a little nervous right now. Can you please go away? But I didn't say that out loud because it was nice that she was encouraging. We have sit and stitch tomorrow night, Friday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Use the shop phone number to get in on Zoom.
828-877-3550.
That is indeed our phone number.
Good, because when I typed it in on Tuesday night, I put in too many 8s and it was like, nope. And I was like, yeah, that
You could have
doesn't look
entered
right.
someone else's meeting and not known what was going on. And then it's the weekend, and we'll see you next week. Our monthly sit and stitch on Sunday is not this weekend. It is a week from Sunday. It's already coming up, but it's a week from Sunday. So we'll talk more about that next week. So happy July, everybody. I know we're like already almost a week in, or a weekend. Whatever. Have a good weekend. And we're going to go see what happens at the shop today. It is always an adventure. What?
We are over 1,090 subscribers.
Oh, did we hit that? We were so close
I
last
saw
night.
It this morning when I woke up. And
We were
checked my
so
YouTube.
close last night. We were at like 89 last night. So we're closing in on 1,100. We're not going to have a big sale every 100 people anymore. We might like every 500 or something. We'll see. But that's exciting. So yes, please subscribe if you haven't already. Help the Google and the YouTube know that we are important enough and entertaining enough to show to more people, and suggest that they follow us. We're at 1,092.
Ooh,
It's starting to climb again. Look, let's go. Thank you all for watching. That's just fun. Like it, thumbs up, give us
Ring
a
the
comment,
bell.
ring the bell, do all the stuff that can help you follow us better and help YouTube know that we're awesome. So bye.